Well, good evening, everybody. And what I'm going to do is I'll use these slides to kind of give some structure to the lecture. And at the end, I'll ask for those who have questions, and we'll have a Q&A. Okay. This is the name of the venture. And the mushrooms are grown that we grow now are derived originally from universities. They originally took something in the wild, and then they brought it into the laboratory. And rather than use soil or wood or dead plants as a substrate, they used fruits and vegetables and herbs. The reason for doing that was they were looking, most of the universities that we now collaborate with, were looking at the beta-glucan as well as several polysaccharide molecules as to would it change the structure, how that molecule is, as well as any other chemistry that was synergistic. And as you know, if you go to Asia, beta-glucans is used as a drug or as a biologic or as a treatment for cancers in Japan and in China and the Philippines. So from that, each university that, well, I'm going to get to the story in a minute. Maybe I'll go to the story now. And what our goal is to, and mission is to improve health and reduce malnutrition worldwide. And that's through educating healthcare professionals and the public on the product's benefits and uses, and to facilitate clinical trials to support claims, awareness, and credibility with all diseases for insurance reimbursement, and so the products become a standard of care. We have secured our designated required registrations with medical and federal agencies. And what we want to do is build upon the recognized premier source of these hybrid medicinal mushrooms worldwide to provide this for all who need it. And I made a presentation to the World Health Organization, the UN, and just recently in Washington with Congress on this matter. Let's see here. So I'm going to go right into the story. My career has been in technology transfer, working for universities or as a private consultant to university teams to commercialize or bring to market new discoveries. I find that most fascinating because I learn something new every time when I meet with different teams. My earlier career was in marine biology and microbiology. And in 2006, I was introduced by an Asian scientist from National Taiwan University who shared with us that he had a fungi that was in the wild, and now they created new strains from that spore for additional stores. Now he had over 300 strains that they developed. And one of those strains, when they fed it to transgenic mice and rats with tumors, their tumors would go away rapidly. So what they asked us to do is they asked us to collaborate and determine what molecules, what is the mechanism, what is the pathway, what is causing this. After reading the science that his team shared with our team, we determined that the chemistry is just too vast, and we need a lot more scientists and or other teams to collaborate with to do the appropriate experiments so we can actually figure that out. So we searched the globe for other teams, and we found teams in Europe, Asia, and the United States. And out of all those teams, we found 6 other universities who were having similar results with animals with tumors. So those were our first focus of collaboration. So we all could work together for the end result of, okay, what molecules are doing what to cause the reduction of tumors, either benign or cancer. So that was about a 2-year process of sharing research. But then I was confronted about 2 years later in December of 2008 when a colleague of mine at a meeting in Europe shared with me that on a Friday afternoon after a break during our meeting, he shared with us that he just got the worst phone call of his life, that his best friend had glioblastoma and stage 4 lung cancer, and there was no chance of survival. They only gave him a month to live. I then shared with him and everyone at the conference table what my other team and myself were working with all our collaborators. And I said, what do we have to lose here? We have different strains of fungi that are successful with tumors. Why don't we try it on this gentleman who has no chance of survival? So over the weekend, we contacted the different teams in Europe, Asia, and the United States. And we put together, what we asked them is, would they ship what they have in their laboratory they're having success with and ship it to us? And let's put a formula together. So basically what we have now is we're going to have basically the best of the best of various strains of fungi that were beneficial with tumors. And so we put together about 3 kilos of this, and we shipped it to where he was in Australia, and we said, based on your pathology, based on your weight and size, you should consume 32 grams a day, which is about 12 to 13 level teaspoons. At the end of, in 5 days he called us, and he says, I have a lot of energy. And what we asked him to do is add it to his food or beverage. Eat it just like the animals were eating it. And then 22 days later, his physician called and said there was a miracle that all the tumors in his brain as well as his lungs were gone. Now, so then we took the same formula, gave it to 3 more patients, and we had the same outcome. So now we had 4 patients. So as you can expect that between the different universities and primary investigators, where do we go from here? In other words, we cannot make any claims even if we see the results such as this, because we don't know all the chemistry. And we never will know all the chemistry. And that's the same with most natural products on the planet Earth, with the exception of finding a molecule in food or herbs that you can do an experiment on that one molecule or group of molecules versus the whole. So the compromise was to beta test this with other cancer patients at teaching hospitals in Europe, Asia, and the United States. And we did that, and the outcome of that was over a 90% success rate with stage 4 cancers. That was all anecdotal with oncologists. So we then just said, well, let's continue doing research. And yes, we learned some more. But from that, we, myself and a few team members went ahead and formed a venture for the purposes of regrowing these so they could be made available. Because we can say we can do research for the next 100 years, but that's not going to save a life. To save a life, let's just produce this and provide it to save a life, specifically with tumors and cancers. And that's what we did. And as time went on, different physicians as well as patients around the globe, because this is including the Middle East, China, and Europe and the United States, that from time to time a patient or a physician would share the product with other physicians who had patients with debilitating diseases. One would say, well, I have a patient that's dying with a severe illness or disease, or even we don't even know what the disease is. So the oncologists say, why don't you try this? What do you have to lose? Try it. And they would try it, and they would be a positive outcome. And that led to many other physicians sharing it from physician to physician, but then a few patients as well, from patient to patient. And now it's been 11 years that we've been producing this product. And we have now found that it has molecules which we articulate in the literature that actually cause the apoptosis of gram-negative and gram-positive bacteria. And as you know, gram-negative bacteria do not have cures currently in the Center for Disease Control. There's about 178 that have been listed. So this product is getting a reputation as a wonderful antibiotic, but what we say is this is just some food. It's a superfood, superior food that basically has a chemistry that is so well designed for our chemistry. Fungi is an organism, it's not a plant. They breathe oxygen like you and I. Its building blocks are similar to mammals. So they've developed chemistry that's that we need. And on our websites, we do articulate what that chemistry is. And we will never know it all, but we have articulated the science in such a way that any allopathic or Western physician or any scientist would understand that this is very beneficial. This is just where I talked about the story. The benefits. You can see the combined strains, and product also penetrates the blood-brain barrier. The molecular structure is small, the weight is small, so it actually penetrates the skin and it penetrates the blood-brain barrier. And examples of that, we have coma patients that rubbing this on their body with coconut oil or cream, hand cream, that they came out of a coma. And then part of the story was a university team called us and said the energy or the frequency energy that was coming from the molecules was off the chart and was greater than any food on the planet Earth, in their opinion, from their review of all the plants and herbs and fruits on the planet Earth. That led them to travel to meet with us and for us to meet with scientists and several other universities, including DARPA, including NASA. Because what we find is the biophysics is how the molecular structure is bound. The product is grown in a sterile environment. You'll find that most growers do not grow in a sterile environment. Fungi will actually absorb and hold the toxins in the air, in the soil, or in the substrate that it consumes until it actually comes to a point of full digestion. So that the time you harvest is important, but also if you provide an environment so there's no competing yeast, bacteria, or viruses, then the fungi is, I call it, happier and can flourish and consume all the substrate. And each university team has, in their thousands of experiments, determined when, for that specific strain we're using, when is the best time to harvest. And each strain takes a different period of time. The time is between 18 and 63 days, depending on the strain. Remember, these strains are not available anywhere else in the world. So we actually wear suits and tanks. We do not breathe the air, as well as at the time of dehydration, at the time of packaging, it's all sterile. So there's no contamination. And you can see in the bottom here, we talk about antiviral, antiparasitic, antibacterial, and these are the molecules. And if you go online and you put these different molecules in there, you will see that how wonderful these molecules are. That is beneficial with reference to antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, antiparasitic. And this is not working. So
Is it on the side?
next slide.
Is it on the side? There's on the side. There's a blue, whether it's a green or red.
So so what we have found, and through our collaboration with the researchers as well as speaking to physicians and patients over the years, is we have documented and we've come up with a chart, or I would call it an observation, based on the thousands of patients. We know what the protocols may be, which is including the consumption of this product, and what the dosage should be. You know, we're talking about cell communication, which another terminology today is everyone's heard the terminology redox communication molecules. So this improves the communication where we have 80 and 90-year-olds heal like they're 20-year-olds. The reason is there is an increase in this chemistry, or these molecules within the cells, and that can be seen with blood tests and so forth. So it supports the increased production of ATP, which is also a communication molecule, so not only an energy to the cell. We find that when you consume this product, that your first 3 days you have so much energy, you may say, I only got 3 or 4 hours sleep last night. So by the 4th day, that subsides because now your immune system is balanced. And once your immune system is balanced, then a lot of your other chemistry becomes more efficient, including your nervous system. When your immune system is balanced, you find that, and this is studies at Stockholm University and UCLA say that if you're bipolar, you're schizophrenic, or you have dementia, or you have Alzheimer's, you can reverse and overcome all 4 of those items, which includes also addiction, also includes depression. The immune system is the key. The American diet is hurting all of us because of additives, preservatives, cane sugars, wheat, and the City of Hope in the 1970s did a study in showing that unsprouted wheat is harmful to all mammals. So basically we should not eat any wheat at all unless it's sprouted wheat. They even went to Congress in the 70s to try to stop the growth, the continuous harvesting of unsprouted wheat in this country. So the American diet is all this wheat and all this cane sugar, plus all the other things. The food has been contaminated with pesticides and the air and the water. So all those things is causing your immune system to slow down or even be turned off from moment to moment. So that's the reason we have more disease and more illness. It's amazing, Dr. Wallach in the 1950s and the 1960s proved that the cause of most disease is malnutrition, where insufficient nutrients, insufficient vitamins can cause disease. So nutrition is the most important thing, really, and on our website we have diet observations, and the diet observations are from some of the leading scientists on diet and food and nutrition. So I recommend you read that and and then you can come to your own opinion of what you wish to do with yourself or with your patient. There's ergothioneine, there's glutathione, and also in this product, which is very unusual. So for those who are taking supplements of those, you don't need to. Specifically, if you're taking at least 16 grams a day versus 32 grams a day, so that's 6 to 8 teaspoons a day. We also suggest is to you should probably consume minerals. If there's any minerals missing, we usually suggest fulvic minerals of one of the brands that are reputable. So I've seen children with autism and Down syndrome and all the above. What a remarkable improvement. Now, they're summarizing here, these substances and these hybrid medicinal mushrooms are regarded as biologic response modifiers, which means they cause no harm and place no additional stress on the body. They help the body to adapt to various environmental and biological stresses, and they exert a non-specific action on the body, supporting some or all of the major systems, including nervous, hormonal, and immune systems, as well as regulatory functions. Dosage observations compiled. Debilitating diseases and severe illness, 32 grams a day or more with food or beverage. And if you go to My Call Discovery Seminar, there's testimonials and there's videos and there's an enormous amount of resources available, other links to other brilliant scientists and other studies, as well as a few articles we have written. And here's a picture of the different products that have been developed with our collaborators. The first was the immune health. The neural and cognitive health has a strain that came from Tokyo University, which shows rapid nerve growth. So if you have a stroke, or if you had a brain surgery and you had a tumor removed and now you're in paralysis, this has been very helpful. And usually everyone starts with the immune health product, and as you'll see in the dosage chart on the handout, but then go to the neural, or go to the blood sugar, or go to the liver. The liver has a strain called Antrodia, which came from the Philippines. And that strain really provides rapid liver growth from cirrhosis of the liver or any other illness in the liver. And that's been tested. So, and blood sugar is more that we've given to diabetes patients or blood pressure patients who are having challenges. And I'll continue here. And so this is just describing how we've packed these products. We have it in a 590 gram, a 295 gram, or 196 gram. And the amount of teaspoons, like the 1.3 pound for a high dosage, would be about a month, or a higher dosage if you're in severe pain may only last you 3 weeks, okay? And all the literature is there describing this on the website. So who our customers are consumers and patients and healthcare and resellers. So we mentioned earlier the sterile production method. Everything's done in a sterile clean room. All the substrates are certified organic. Here is the growing and processing step by step. So we take the proprietary substrates, we receive the substrate, we clean and autoclave the substrates, then we inoculate, add spores to the starter substrate in the tank. After it starts, depending upon the spore, we may have to add more substrate in 2 to 3 days. Then we And these are all done in tanks, glass tanks. We do not use plastic. And then we add water and seal with a HEPA filter, so an additional protection to prevent any organisms to get into the tank. So when it's in the tank, okay. Mushroom is grown, mushroom is removed and air dried, and then is ground into a powder and stored in inventory for the specific formula. These are the different strains, the species from which the strains came from. And for each of these, there's one university, in Haifa University in Israel, they have over 2,000 strains of a mix of actually over 20 species. And Dr. Wasser there has been doing this. He started in the Ukraine back in the late 50s. Well, these are some things they talked about earlier. In other words, mushrooms breathe oxygen and exhale CO2 just like we do. They grow. When growing, they exude protein catalysts to digest the optimized nutrients in our proprietary organic substrates. The hybrid strains can produce the best blend of enzymes, polysaccharides, proteins, and amino acids for our needs. And it stimulates our body's own proteins, enzymes, ATP molecules, redox communication molecules, hormones, and stem cells. When there's more communication between the cells, you find that your body has the ability to heal as if you were a younger person. And as we get older, our redox communication as well as our ATP levels go down. And I should have put a chart here to kind of show you that. You know, as years and years go down, it all gets lower and lower, smaller. The amount of cells, excuse me, the amount of molecules. So, molecules cause the apoptosis of gram-negative and gram-positive bacteria, and with viruses which are resistant to most antibiotics. Products support the flow of glucose, adrenaline, and insulin in the blood. They support the stimulation of good cholesterol, dilation of blood vessels, and the absorption of free radicals in our body. Supports the immune and nervous system. So, contains amino acids, nucleotides, vitamins, and enzymes we need. Also contain the right ratio of some 4,000 plus biological chemicals we need. And that is articulated in the document Summary of the Beneficial Chemistry, which is on our website, which articulates which each university has compiled with that specific species. In their studies, they do not articulate the strain, they do not articulate or write in their reports as to what the substrate is most of the time. The reason is it's proprietary, and they're trying to find the certain molecules and make it secret or to license it to industry or license it to big pharma or to sell it. So that's the reason they don't give you all the information. If you go to the university and you bring the paper with you and you talk to the team, they may tell you more. This is an ancient life form that evolved with animals and humans. They're just not a mix of chemicals produced in a lab. So, the mechanisms. While consumption shows an increase in white blood cells to boost the immune system's response to invaders and in fighting disease, cancer cells, toxins, and viruses. Also, we see it almost seems to reboot the immune system, which is a terminology they use at UCLA. As if the immune system is turned off for a moment, and when it's turned back on, your T T4 cells seem to give commands to your T8 cells, which are the soldiers, to fight. But now they have they're winning the battle. And getting back to earlier with reference to that strain, they regenerate liver cells to help reverse cirrhosis caused by hepatitis C, drugs, and alcohol. Supports cognitive ability, boosting nerve cells' ability to reduce inflammation and neural damage events. Their proteins and enzymes support nerve cell growth, and the redox communication molecules supporting mental acuity, physical endurance, and the proliferation of your own stem cells and tissue repair. Anecdotally, we have seen with athletes and students that there is an increase in cognitive ability and comprehension from consuming this product. Boosts ATP in heart and muscles to improve energy, improve oxygen uptake, to recover from exercise and injury and illness, increases the uptake of oxygen to red blood cells by 30%. As you see with even heart disease, those as we all get older, we may have valve problems or pumping problems, part of the heart muscle may die. Well, we have seen using this product that we see there's an improvement. When the physician says we have to repair this valve, just 30 days of using the immune product, the valve seems to repair itself. So you didn't have to have open heart surgery. We'll be doing studies, actually, with the CDC studies, and then we have 113 other studies that we're writing grants to do, actually worldwide, including all the orphan diseases, over 300 studies with our collaborators. And the reason for doing these studies, it would be equal to a phase 1, 2, and 3. So it would be approved for use as a protocol with that specific disease. So the insurance industry would then provide reimbursement, other than also to provide more credibility under a controlled study for those who doubt the science any further. We do have on our website, under recipes and under diet observations, and articles on cancer and inflammation, some great articles and news for your reading, very up to date by other teams who have articulated and have analyzed the market pertaining to those, such as heart disease, such as the cancer and other disease. Well, this is also talked about, we talked about this earlier, mushrooms provide antioxidant transport to boost antioxidants to reduce cellular destruction and increase length and quality of life. Contain protein-bound polysaccharides, CO, SN, PSK to help balance blood sugar, blood pressure, and cholesterol levels to help fight diabetes and heart disease. Independent studies have been done in Connecticut, in Boston, Mass General, that can you reverse cholesterol levels in your veins? You can. I mean, if you go to medical school, and when I talk to the physicians, we would say, okay, once you have plaque, it builds up, and then you internally, your blood vessel will form around that plaque. And they say it's impossible to reduce cholesterol. Well, that's been disproved now, regardless of mushrooms. Yes, mushrooms help, but more green vegetables has proven to work. This is kind of a repeat of some of the things we talked about. How to use mushroom products. Starting service size is 5 to 32 grams or more a day. Ask your healthcare professional how to use and integrate it with other health programs. Well, if you're on a drug, any drug or any other protocols, it's completely safe. Actually, if you're on a drug protocol It will take away the toxicity of the drug and make the drug safe. Why? Because your immune system is stronger now, so it can break down the toxicity that the drug may be producing. So actually it makes the drug safe, so actually it'll make it do what it's supposed to do. For those that do, they're legitimate, if you want to call it, and there's been proof that in trials there was benefit. Yes, the mushroom chemistry has antioxidants, but that's just by a component in its own self. As a synergistic product as food, it will not harm or change the benefits of other drugs or protocols. And so a physician may look at this and not read the whole document, but he reads one page and says, uh-oh, this has antioxidants, so I can't let you consume mushrooms. Well, if he read page 2, he would find out that that's false, because he's got to read the whole document. So we can sprinkle it on your food, add it to a salad dressing, eggs, poultry, sauces, soups, or other food, mixed items. Cooking this does not really denature it, not unless you burn it. Standard cooking temperature does not harm the product. So you go to MikeHallDiscoverySeminar.com and you'll find more information on, as well as a recipe, which maybe we'll come up to, of a smoothie or a juice, which we'll get to. Well, I've already talked about the competitive advantages. The most important being that we have strains that no one else is using, that have been proven in a laboratory with animals and now with humans. Secondly, it's grown in a sterile environment, so you're getting the pure product. There's no extracts necessary, because the whole is better than the parts. Retail pricing is below the average of regular medicinal mushrooms. Well, those considered premium are, $40, $50, $60 for a half ounce. So it's like close to $2,000 a pound. We sell a pound and a third at $1,200. And ours works, so it's something you're going to see something on average in a month and a half because of the efficacy. In our observations, we have located every mushroom grower in every country and every island and all over the globe, and there's over 600. And most of them are very small, and none of them grow these strains, but strains that they grow are not in a clean room, so there's definitely some contamination of all of them. So we make this as a statement: products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, prevent disease, required statement with all foods. All claims and statements have not been evaluated by the FDA, and then you should consult with a healthcare professional. You want to get a second opinion on your diagnosis. The University of Maryland, there's a news article on our website that came from the University of Maryland, and said about 50% of the time physicians don't know how to read a lab report. And then another study shows that most of the time when they give you painkillers, they overdose, and the overdose can cause death. So you as a family should double check if you have a loved one in the hospital. You want to make sure that they're not overdosing. Check the charts, check the, find out what drug, if there is a drug, and go to the web or contact the company and say, what is the proper dosage, and what can you do with or without, or what other drugs to avoid if my husband or my wife is taking this drug. You just want to make sure they're not overdosing. Also here at UCSD, it hasn't been published yet, but it shows that most of the time when it comes to chemotherapy, they overdose, which causes death as well. On our website, Dr. Greger at the nutritionfacts.org, as well as several others on our website, have articulated that really chemotherapy is not helpful at all today. Radiation is not helpful as well, and radiation causes metastasis, with an exception of maybe bone cancer. But then we have proton therapy. But in all the observations that in reading of articles in Science, it shows that diet is the most important thing. I had an opportunity going to Manhattan to meet with 25 MDs between Boston, New York, New Jersey, and Philadelphia. And they all had stage 4 cancers. And one actually had hepatitis C and stage 4 cancer, a woman surgeon from Mass General. And this was an all-day event, private meeting. They all said they beat their cancers because they went on a raw food diet or more green food diet about 90 to 95% of the time. And on average, it took them about 3 years to have success. And they're all practicing today. So that means something, doesn't it? This is causes of illness and disease. In the United States, about 50% of the population every year is faced with a chronic illness, debilitating illness, or severe disease or severe illness. And so what you need to do to overcome it. And on our websites, we also have the presentation that we made to the World Health Organization and the UN. It's a 50-slide presentation which articulates the statistics. And basically, our product, because of the efficacy, because of the wonderful chemistry, and because of the frequency and energy, it's been proposed that this will be used to eliminate famine in the world. And we mass produce it. We'll be able to produce it for dollars per day to eliminate famine. And it's exciting. And the other thing is, with our studies completed and funded by NIH and the CDC with the other universities, we should hopefully in 6 years see that we can make a big difference. We are small. We do run out, but we're in the process of building growing facilities in the US, Central America, and Europe, and Africa, maybe. So more will be produced. I'll just use the state of Massachusetts. If I take 1% of those with a chronic or debilitating disease or severe illness, the amount that we would have to produce, I would need growing facilities equal to about 10 football fields just to serve 1% of the market of Massachusetts. So you can see we need a lot of growing space. We take 16 cubic feet to produce one of those containers on that table. 16 cubic feet. And of the 16 cubic feet, we have about 5 cycles in a year. So we can rotate that 5 times a year for that growing space. The other challenge we have is also growing the substrates, because we traveled throughout the US and Central America and Europe, and there's limits to certain substrates. So we're going to have to hire farmers, and/or we're going to grow these substrates ourselves. I'm not going to go into a lot of the science. I'm going to wait for a Q&A, but this is causes of illness and disease. Oxidation causes cellular destruction, leading to decreased function, ultimate cell necrosis or apoptosis. DNA expression is downregulated, and protein synthesis is stopped when protein warning signals are caused by abnormal cellular chemistry. As organelles are overwhelmed with negative feedback signals, the cells respond with programmed cell death. Now, proteins are created to be used to communicate with the cell to direct the transcription of DNA to be used in the cell membrane as a cell surface receptor. I'm not going to go in the 3-4 different ways that the cell communication, but to create immune proteins like IgG, IgA, and IgE, to create protein chaperones which assist in busing proteins to places they are needed. Endoplasmic reticulum, which is synthesis and folding of membranes and circulatory proteins, which collectively present a large function of the total protein output of mammalian cells. Therefore, the protein flux through the ER must be carefully monitored by abnormalities, including the buildup of misfolded proteins. Getting back to what I said earlier, is when you're younger, you heal quickly, you repair. But even if you have an injury when you're young, at the time of that repair, because of toxicities, because of the environment, or things that could be anything, that maybe some of the cells that are repaired may even be a mutated cell. So it's sending out commands that could cause oxidation, or cause cell death, or send commands so a certain organ or hormone is not working properly, or too much of a hormone is being produced, or hormone is not being produced. What we find connected to cancer is mutated cells. The chemistry shows that, as I said earlier, it removes the cloaking device of cancer, so now it's seen as a foreign body about 9 out of 10 times. The 1 out of 10 times, we see that it stops metastasis, but we have to use other protocols, and we now have a list of natural protocols. One is GCMAF, which that was determined by Dr. Ruggiero at the University of Florence in Italy, with his colleagues in Germany, and several other plants and weeds that came from South America and the Mediterranean. So for those patients where tumors go away and one is stubborn and just stays there, we try the other protocols, and we have great success with one or all the different protocols through consumption in a liquid or through injection. But we find that with football players and soldiers who have damage to their brain, there's rapid improvement. We see that through neuroplasticity, or Alzheimer's or dementia, or MS, that those lesions also the immune system will consume and your own stem cells will repair. With those who have dementia or Alzheimer's or depression or bipolar, we can see in 3 weeks a big difference. So some of them, I had a group up in Canada, and they said, you know, I feel I have no desire, no longer any depression. I feel free. And it all gets back to that immune system. These are ER stress pathways, and they're articulated more in depth, but if you wish you can, I'm going to kind of skip through this, and I'm going to wait for some Q&As, okay? And these are specific signaling pathways. So each university and their collaborators and individual teams, when they saw success with some molecules and hypothesizing others, that took them on a journey such as we see here in articulating. And so in some of the universities, they have 50 to 60 scientists over the last 30 to 50 years that have been involved in providing, articulating the mechanism, the pathway, as well as hypothesizing what the other chemistry synergistic to this is happening. So, but again, it's getting back to what we did in the beginning, is we can continue the research, but more importantly, let's just produce this and consume it.